She tore up a black girl's ticket until she found out who her father was. Part 1. The flight that changed everything. Have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly just because of how they look? If you think this doesn't still happen in America today, think again. This story will shock you. Nova Carter was not just any girl. At 16 years old, she had already completed a prestigious summer program for gifted youth at the renowned Bellamy Institute. This was a program that only the brightest of students even dreamed of attending, and Nova had finished it with distinction. Now, after an intense summer of hard work and success, Nova was on her way home to New York. She was eager to reunite with her family, especially her father, who promised they'd celebrate her accomplishments together. But what Nova didn't know was that this flight would change everything, and not in the way she expected. Part 2. The check in the PA system echoed through JFK International Airport, announcing departures over the hum of conversations and the rolling wheels of suitcases. Travelers bustled past, some staring at their phones, others rushing to their gates. Among them, Nova Carter made her way calmly to the check-in counter. She wore her favorite gray hoodie, a pair of jeans, and crisp white sneakers. Nothing flashy, no designer labels. Just a regular teenager, comfortable in her own skin. With one earbud still in, Nova hummed along to the music until she reached the counter. She took it out, smiled politely, and handed her ticket and passport to the attendant. "Good morning," Nova greeted cheerfully. The middle-aged attendant, who wore her dark hair in a tight bun, barely looked up at first. But when she did, her eyes flickered with something unspoken. They swept over Nova from head to toe, pausing on the first-class ticket she held. "First class?" the woman asked, her tone laced with skepticism. Nova kept her smile steady. "Yes." There was a long pause. The attendant's fingers hesitated over her keyboard. She glanced at a coworker, her eyebrows furrowing as they exchanged silent words. Something wasn't right. Nova noticed it. She wasn't imagining things. The attendant finally printed out Nova's boarding pass, but slid it across the counter with a stiffness that didn't go unnoticed. Nova nodded, offering thanks before wheeling her bag away. But she could still feel their stares following her. Have you ever experienced that feeling that someone doubts you belong? Drop a yes in the comments if this hits home. Part 3. Suspicion at the gate. Nova made her way to gate 17, where first-class passengers were already lining up. They sipped expensive coffees, scrolled through their phones, and engaged in hushed conversations. Nobody seemed to be having any trouble. Nobody except her. At the gate counter stood a woman with sharp features and a polished uniform. Her name tag read Claire Whitmore, Chief Flight Attendant. Claire had worked for Westland Airways for over 20 years. She prided herself on knowing who belonged in first class and who didn't. When Claire saw Nova approach, suspicion flickered across her face. It wasn't subtle. "Good morning," Nova said, handing over her boarding pass. Claire took the ticket with a practiced hand, but her gaze sharpened the moment she saw the words "first class" printed in bold. "This is the first class line," Claire said slowly. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" Nova took a breath. She had heard this question before, but Claire's tone wasn't curious. It was dismissive. "No mistake," Nova answered, her voice as calm as her father had taught her to be in moments like this. "That's my ticket." Claire's eyes narrowed. "Who booked this ticket for you?" she asked. "My father," Nova replied. "And his name?" "Jackson Carter." For a second, Claire's expression changed. Everyone in the aviation industry knew Jackson Carter, CEO of Westland Airways. But instead of relaxing, Claire's suspicion deepened. "Wait here," she ordered, waving over another attendant to verify the ticket. Nova stood in silence. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. 10. People in line behind her began to whisper. The businessman in a tailored suit shot her a look. The woman in pearls and a silk dress frowned, as if Nova had caused a disturbance. Eventually, Claire returned. "I need to see your ID," she demanded. Nova handed over her passport. Claire checked it thoroughly, too thoroughly, flipping it back and forth like she expected to find something fake. Finally, Claire shoved the passport back at Nova. "You can go," she said curtly. Nova paused, then smiled tightly. "Thank you for your professionalism," she said, her tone layered with subtle defiance. But something told Nova it wasn't over. Part 4. Crossing the lineas, Nova made her way toward the boarding door. She heard Claire's sharp voice behind her. "You there?" "Wait." Nova turned. Claire was holding her ticket again, this time between two fingers as if it was something foul. "This ticket looks fake," Claire announced loudly. A hush fell over the area. People turned to watch. Nova's chest tightened. "It's not," she replied firmly. "Check it again." "I've already checked," Claire said, "and I won't let you board this flight." Claire's smile was thin, triumphant. Then she did something unthinkable. She tore the ticket in half. Gasps echoed through the gate. Nova stared at the pieces fluttering to the floor. Her first-class ticket, gone in an instant. "What did you just do?" Nova demanded. Claire shrugged. "Find another flight. One that fits your budget." If you think Claire went too far, leave a yes in the comments. Part 5. Witnesses speak up. The passengers behind Nova had watched the entire thing. A man in a charcoal gray suit stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said. "Did you just tear up her ticket because you thought it was fake? Did you even scan it properly?" Claire crossed her arms. "I've done this for 2 decades," she said. "I know when something's wrong." A woman in a red trench coat, an attorney, judging by her presence, spoke next. "I've flown first class for years," she said, "and I've never seen anyone's ticket destroyed on suspicion alone." Nova took a deep breath, steadying herself. "If you think my ticket is fake," she said, "call your supervisor. Right now." Claire's expression faltered, but she quickly snapped. "Who do you think they're going to believe?" "Everyone here," Nova replied. And when she glanced around, several people nodded. Someone pulled out their phone and started recording. Another called the airline's customer service. Claire's control over the situation was slipping. Part 6. Security escalates. Desperate, Claire barked, "Security." 2 guards appeared instantly. "Remove her," Claire ordered. The guards grabbed Nova by the arm. "You're disturbing public order," they said. That Nova's heart raced. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said, her voice rising. "I had a valid ticket." But they didn't care. They were moving her away from the gate. Part 7. The call that changed everything. Nova fumbled with her phone, calling her dad. Voicemail. Again and again. Desperate, she sent a text. "I was denied boarding. Help." No immediate reply. Claire's smirk widened as Nova clutched her phone. "Call whoever you want," Claire said. "You're not getting on this flight." Nova met Claire's gaze. "You'll regret this." Part 8. Justice on the wire. A moment later, Nova's phone buzzed out a message from an unknown number. "Stand your ground. Help is on the way." Who sent it? She didn't know, but something was about to change. Passengers had started live streaming the incident. The hashtags were already trending. Hashtag Justice for Nova. Hashtag Discrimination at JFK. Hashtag First Class Not First. Look. Within minutes, Richard Carter, the CEO of Westland Airways, was seeing the footage, and he was on his way. Part 9. The CEO arrives. Richard Carter arrived at JFK less than 30 minutes later. The air around him froze as he walked through the terminal. The chairman. In person, he found Nova surrounded by security. He found Claire still smirking. He found a crowd watching every second. Richard stopped in front of Claire. "Do you know," he said, "whose ticket you tore up?" Claire's face went pale. I didn't. You tore up my daughter's ticket," Richard said. "And now you're fired." Part 10. Consequences and lessons learned. Claire was escorted away in disgrace. Passengers cheered, and Nova was invited to the VIP lounge, though she declined. She didn't need luxury to feel validated. She needed justice, and she got it. The lesson: don't judge a book by its cover. Claire judged Nova because of her appearance, but Nova taught her, and the world, that respect isn't about money or clothes, that it's about basic human dignity. Final message: if you believe in justice, share this story, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories like this. And remember, no one is above the law, and no one deserves to be treated as less.